In the 90's, you had a wonderful line of action movies like Die Hard 2, Face Off the Fugitive, Speed, and Broken Arrow. The strength of these movies was that more than most knew how to pick a good cast, and there was a very little influence from society as a whole. Back in the 90's, action movies was about entertaining people and about creating that edge of the seat experience. In all these mentioned movies, it was also always about picking the right people for the roles. For instance, the cat and mouse chase between Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones would never have been created in the same intensity if it hadn't been for those two actors in that particular movie. That mentioned movie, The Fugitive, was also a movie created in a way more cinematic way than most action movies are today. Especially when Harrison Ford is running around on the bridge, the music comes on, and Tommy Lee Jones and the other guys tries to catch him to bring him in. This is also kind of off topic, but that movie had a very good follow up called US Marshals, where Wesley Snipes is the central character that Tommy Lee Jones has to catch. The same can be said about Speed, where you see a very good lead role from Keanu Reeves, which really started his career, but Sandra Bullock also gained fame for this role. After it was made, it has really been an action movie that has inspired the genre, because it is really intense and the plot from the movie where the criminal really acts as a narrator, where the lead character all the time has to apply by his rules, is a plot that has later been done in movies such as Die Hard 3 and 12 Rounds. So this is really an action movie that has inspired others, and a movie built more around the bad guy to give him more space in the movie. Dennis Hopper is also terrific in this movie, and what the 90's could do, they could really choose the menacing bad guys, like you also saw in the Face Off movie, where you see a remarkable performance by Nicolas Cage, who plays both the bad guy and the good guy in the same movie. That is really a riveting experience that back in the day was so good I had to see it twice. Because when Mr. Cage comes alive as Castor Troy in this movie, he throws up a one-of-a-kind performance that really gives you chills all the way. Today, you have some action movies that really are something, but not a lot. Although Mission Impossible Fallout was one that felt sold itself up as the ultimate action movie, where the intensity and the max trick, Tom Cruise in top form, and the stunts being very good, action movies like that are few and far between. There are exceptions, however, with Die Hard 4, John Wick, and Paycheck, which all were very good and intense action movies with a lot of focus on the main character. You want to see an action hero in movies like that, and that is what you get, but those are real exceptions to what you have seen lately. Apart from Extraction, which probably broke out the bad seeds a little, because that in itself may be the last great action movie, and although the second one was still entertaining, it was some way off the first one in intensity, good action scenes, bad guys, and entertainment. Nowadays, you just feel the new action movies that are created does not care a lot about the cast, the story, or the entertainment. Later efforts like The Grey Man supports this, because in that particular movie, it is only really Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling that really acts in the movie. And although Anna de Armas does not act that bad, she's really in there just for the inclusion and not too much more. But that can 100% be said about Jessica Henwick, who never should have been in this movie. The plot is a classic bad one, just ground in action. Although there's a lot of action, it is not in any way intense edge of the seat stuff like in the 90's movies. In the recent Mission Impossible movie, it is also a case where it's miles away from the clever masterclass of Fallout. The action scenes are very much stripped down, and the movie itself really just bores you a lot compared to Fallout. You would think a bad guy as an AI could have been a lot more entertaining, but compared to the menacing Solomon Lane, it is just a bit mediocre, and you take away screen time from Tom Cruise to give it to Haley Atwell or the White Widow. It is not that the movie is not entertaining because the scenes on the train are good, but it is just that compared to Fallout, it never really holds you on the edge for that long. Another action movie which disappointed me lately was the No Time to Die movie, which I felt was a step down compared to the previous one, Spectre. This may be a controversial opinion, of course, but I don't think that Craig acts as good as he did in the last one. That his character was going to die may be the explanation for that, but you just feel that James Bond is a little too emotional in this movie. He is supposed to be this cold, arrogant kind of man, but in this movie he does not show that as much as he suddenly gets feeling for Madeline. The bad guy is also a weak point in this movie. Rami Malek is much weaker as the villain, and for instance, Walsh was in the Spectre movie. In that role, he managed to really put up something of a masterclass, rarely seen as a villain in a movie. Malek never really manages to be menacing, and is introduced in an annoying backstory at the beginning of the movie. What I really lacked in this movie is to see more of Ana de Armas, because she had maybe the coolest character in this one, but then it had maybe a completely different movie. In short, I just feel there was something beautiful about those 90s movies, action movies, back in the day, because it was created for the action movie lover on a whole other level than it is today. In comparison to what you see today in action movies, most of the time they do not put up a lot of effort into the story, the cast, or the action scenes.